So, I've been farming a lot recently. So much so that my farming level on my main, in comparison to my Iron Man, aren't really too dissimilar. One of the most commonly asked questions when it comes to farming is without a doubt what pet to use. Do you use the elephant pet? Also, I'm having to borrow a mushroom cow pet considering it's derpy and I completely forgot. Or the mushroom cow. So elephant or mushroom cow, what do you use? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the stats on a level 100 legendary elephant pet. Base stats, really what we're looking for is plus 30 farming fortune, but that's because of the yellow bandana. It gives us defense and health, but that's kind of irrelevant. Trunk efficiency grants plus 180 farming fortune, which increases your chance for multiple drops. So from this elephant pet, essentially with the pet item, we're gaining 210 farming fortune. Now if we just pan over to mushroom cow, so we have efficient mushrooms, which is pretty much irrelevant, that's to do with minions. Mushroom eater, when breaking mature crops there is a 100% chance that a mushroom will drop. So not only are you getting whatever you're farming, you're also getting mushrooms at the same time. And farming strength, gain plus 1 farming fortune per every 20 strength. Which means that pretty much any way that you can get your base strength up will basically result in more farming fortune. And of course the main way you do that is through your magical power and your power stone. So if we pick something like Forceful, which is going to give us a base strength of 660, in theory we should have more farming fortune than we did before. So with our elephant equipped, we've got our Fermento on with Rancher's Boots, we've got a Melon Dicer, then we've also got obviously the full Lotus set that's all rooted. We're currently getting 869 farming fortune. If we switch over to our Mushroom Cow, our farming fortune is 844. Now essentially in farming fortune, one of the main factors that will contribute towards the mushroom cow actually being better is going to be the amount of strength that you can get, which is going to be basically down to your magical power. Of course, each power stone gives a bigger buff if you have more magical power. So yeah. And having looked through the rest of the power stones, what we have is definitely best in terms of Forceful being the best for strength. Now I just want to mention this video was recorded before the changes made to the elephant pet and the mushroom cow pet. The legendary elephant at level 100 now gives plus 150 farming fortune instead of plus 180 farming fortune from the trunk efficiency ability. And as for the mushroom cow, it now gives plus 110 farming fortune instead of plus 140 farming fortune. So both pets have been nerfed by 30 farming fortune, which shouldn't really make a difference to the outcome. The figures will be slightly lower nowadays, but in terms of a comparison, it's still going to be very, very similar. Now, before we do get into the testings and comparisons, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS. It gets yourself 5% off. Also, there are a ton of people who watch my videos and aren't subscribed, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Finally, my Discord server is linked in the description of this video. Make sure you join. We do things like carries for dungeons and slayers. However, just because this mushroom cow gives us slightly less farming fortune doesn't mean that we would make less coins, because every time we break a block, we're actually going to drop mushrooms as well at the same time. As you can see, every time we break a block of melon, for instance, we're going to get mushrooms. Now, of course, when it comes to these two pets, the question is farming fortune, and essentially, how much money you can make from it. If you wanted farming wisdom, you'd use a rabbit pet instead. I mean, that's the bottom line. So it's not about getting XP, it's about basically the amount of crops that we get, i.e. the amount of money we can sell the crops for. So, first of all, we're going to equip our elephant pet, and we're going to do a bit of a test. We're going to farm for 5 minutes, we're then going to multiply that by 12, and then we're going to see how much we can make per hour. And this is actually kind of annoying because I don't really farm on my main profile manually, and this farm, in comparison to a mega farm, is terrible. It's horrible. Okay, so we've done one full harvest of the farm. It wasn't quite 5 minutes, although I can work it out. With the elephant pet, we got ourselves 9 enchanted melon blocks and just a couple of extra regular melons. These melons sell for 445k, meaning that per hour we would make around about 6.98 million coins. Honestly, that's really not very good. It's actually terrible, but it's probably because the farm's so inefficient. However, of course, we will be testing both pets on the same farm, so it shouldn't make a difference in terms of a comparison. Anyway, now on to the test of the mushroom cow. Okay, so after another harvest of the farm, this time we have 6 enchanted melon blocks, we have 10 enchanted brown mushrooms, 10 enchanted red mushrooms. We also dropped a squash this time too. The sell value of all of this is 452k. Which means that despite we got substantially less melons, we actually made more coins. Now, dropping the squash did help. However, the first time we actually tested it with the elephant pet, we did get a crazy rare drop, which gave us 2 enchanted melon blocks. So, realistically, this is how I think. If you can't decide between the elephant and the mushroom, the likelihood is you're trying to maximize your farming fortune. Now, the main reason for that is probably simply because you want to make as many coins as you possibly can. If you want to make coins at the moment, realistically, you're probably going to farm melon. Both the melon dicer and the pumpkin dicer relatively recently got quite a substantial buff in terms of the actual drops that you get from the roll-em. And if I'm being completely honest, number 1, it comes down to a bit of RNG, and number 2, it probably comes down to your magical power. Quite simply, if you have high magical power, I'd probably say somewhere over 1,000, then potentially the mushroom cow could be better. In pretty much any other scenario where you have lower magical power, the elephant is going to be better. Now, that's not exact science, but that's roughly. Of course, it is pretty hard to judge, considering if you drop a squash, then that's obviously going to impact how much money you make. If you get unlucky with the drops that you actually get from the dicer, then that's also going to impact. But even at my magical power with almost 1,200, there isn't a massive amount in it, realistically. It's very, very similar. Something else to mention is some people opt to put a minus relic on the pets instead of, well, probably a green bandana at best case scenario in terms of an alternative. However, to make this fair, we'd have to put this pet item on both pets, which means it wouldn't really affect the outcome, because the outcome is very, very, very similar to each other anyway. Just thought I'd get that out there. Now, for those people who are a bit worried or apprehensive in terms of farming because of the recent updates to the mushroom cow and elephant, like I mentioned before in the video, the difference is only 30 farming fortune. In the grand scheme, it's not a massive difference. It doesn't mean farming has been nerfed out of existence like armadillo mining. It just means that you're going to get 30 less farming fortune, which is, don't get me wrong, quite a decent chunk of farming fortune, but it is not the end of the world. Farming is by no means dead. It is still basically free money, especially at earlier game. So if you are trying to decide between the two, I think, like I said before, it's just down to your magical power. And realistically, that's pretty much it. Other than that, all you can do really is pray for good luck. Anyway, that will just about wrap up today's video. I hope you all have enjoyed. If you have, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.